He said, "Play jazz or die, the Axeman of New Orleans still unsolved." Before we dive in, kindly hit the subscribe button and let us know where you are watching from in the comment. It started with a sound, not a scream, not a gunshot, but music, jazz. On a warm spring night in New Orleans, 1918, a strange terror gripped the city. It didn't announce itself with thunder or blood. It whispered, through alleyways, through locked doors, through the hiss of a phonograph needle. The Axeman had come. March 19, 1918. Joseph Maggio and his wife, Catherine, had gone to bed like any other night. Their small apartment above a grocery store on Upper Line Street was modest but homey. At 2 a.m., neighbors heard something odd. Not a fight, not shouting, but music, faint, jazzy, floating from a nearby open window. And then a scream. Police found the couple in their bed. Their throats had been slit, heads crushed by an axe. Blood covered the sheets, splattered the walls. But nothing was stolen. A panel on the back door had been chiseled out. That's how he got in. The axe? It was theirs. The killer had used the victim's own blade against them. The Maggios had no enemies, no debts, no reason to die. People were terrified, but also confused. Who brings jazz to a murder scene? Who carves out a door panel rather than breaking it? Whispers grew. Was it a madman? A drifter? Or something worse? Someone watching, waiting, calculating? The newspapers called him the Axeman, and the name stuck. 2 months later, another attack. Louis Bassumer and his mistress, Harriet Lowe, were found bludgeoned in the back of his grocery shop. Same story, entry through a chiseled panel. Victims attacked with their own axe. Nothing stolen. Harriet survived, barely. She told police, a tall man, in dark clothes, but his face, I couldn't see it. Her voice cracked. He said nothing, just swung the axe. Days later, she slipped into a coma and died. Grocery stores seemed to be a pattern. The killer always struck at night, always used the same method. But why grocers? Why music? Why now? Churches urged prayer. Bars stayed open later. Musicians played louder. Everyone was trying to drown out the fear. It didn't work. Then the Axeman spoke. On March 13, 1919, the New Orleans Times-Picayune received a letter, typed, postmarked from hell. It read, "Esteemed mortals of New Orleans, they have never caught me and they never will. To be exact, at 12:15 earthly time, on next Tuesday night, I am going to pass over New Orleans. I am very fond of jazz music, and I swear by all the devils in the nether regions that every person shall be spared in whose home a jazz band is playing. If everyone has a jazz band going, then so much the better for you people. One thing is certain, and that is that some of your people who do not jazz it out on that specific Tuesday night, if there be any, will get the axe." Signed, the Axeman. New Orleans had never seen anything like it. Every house, every bar, every dance hall, jazz. People who'd never played a note in their life hired musicians just to survive. From the French Quarter to the Garden District, trumpets blared. Drums pounded. The city played for its life. And that night, no one died. The Axeman didn't strike. Who was he? No one knew. But the message was clear. Play jazz or die. That turned the Axeman into more than just a killer. He was a myth. A terror with taste. People compared him to Jack the Ripper, to Spring-Heeled Jack, to the Boogeyman. Except this wasn't London or folklore. This was real, in the heart of America, and it wasn't over. Over the next year, the Axeman struck again. Grocers, barbers, families, always the same method, always the same silence. He never spoke. He never left fingerprints. He never stole anything. Only blood and music. Some said he was a former butcher. Others claimed he was a failed musician. One detective believed he was a religious zealot, punishing sinners who didn't embrace the jazz age. None of it made sense. Every suspect led to a dead end. Police offered rewards. Psychics got involved. Nothing. By October 1919, it ended. Just like that, the killings stopped. The Axeman vanished. No arrests, no confessions. No final letter. He faded back into the shadows he came from. But the city never forgot. New Orleans had danced with death and survived. Because it played jazz. The murders left a trail, but the truth stayed hidden. While the public trembled, detectives worked in shadows, piling names, building theories. They needed a face for the fear. They needed the Axeman. But what they found instead only deepened the mystery. First on the list was Joseph Mumford, an ex-con, a known extortionist, and the last person seen visiting one of the Axeman's surviving victims. He had ties to the mafia, ties to voodoo circles, and allegedly a burning hatred for those who turned away from traditional values. When investigators dug into his past, they found something else. He had been in and out of prison throughout 1918 and 1919, conveniently matching the timeline of the Axeman killings. Coincidence? Maybe, but it gets stranger. In December 1920, a woman named Esther Albano, whose father had been killed by the Axeman, shot Joseph Mumford in broad daylight. She claimed he was the Axeman. The case was dismissed as vigilante justice, but many believed her. Still, there was no concrete proof, just rumors, and one more dead body. Another theory centered on jazz musicians themselves. Was the Axeman a failed artist? A man who turned his pain into terror? Some survivors described hearing footsteps paired with whistling. Off-key, rhythmic, eerie. A few local players went missing around the same time. Others left town quickly after the murders. Police questioned dozens of musicians, including those playing the night of the infamous jazz letter. But no connections were made. Still, the image stuck, a jazzman with a blade. A performer turned predator. Was it metaphor or truth? No one knew. A barber's wife swore she saw a man standing under the gaslight outside their shop the night before her husband was murdered. She said his eyes were pale, milky, not blind, but empty, and he never blinked. No one else reported seeing this man. But weeks later, a different woman claimed to see a similar figure at a grocery store hours before another attack. The white-eyed man became urban legend. But what if he wasn't a legend at all? Was he a hypnotist, an addict, or something worse? As theories grew darker, some suggested the Axeman was no man at all. New Orleans had always been a city of ghosts, saints, and sin. Voodoo rumors spread quickly. Was he summoned? A demon in disguise? Police dismissed these as distractions, but the public couldn't shake it. One priest even held a public exorcism in the French Quarter. Nothing changed, but fear only deepened. This theory chilled the city the most. What if the Axeman wore a badge? He always got in without a struggle, always knew his way around, always vanished without a trace. Only someone who understood the system could play it that well. Could it be? A man sworn to protect, playing jazz as he hunted? No officer was ever charged, but trust in the department cracked, and the city began to eat itself from the inside. After a final strike in August 1919, the killings stopped. Just like before, only silence remained. But the whispers didn't stop, nor the questions. For more chilling true crime stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. New Orleans didn't just bleed. It read, and it feared what it read. By mid-1919, the Axeman wasn't just a killer. He was a headline. The Times-Picayune, the New Orleans Item, the States, and dozens more plastered his name across front pages. Each murder came with columns of speculation, and each letter, real or rumored, was printed in bold. The media had found its monster, and they were feeding him. One editorial read, "The Axeman stalks among us still, cloaked in shadows, wearing the scent of blood and the sound of jazz." Another headline, "Jazz or Death. City held hostage by phantom fiend." People ate it up. Every whisper became a report. Every rumor became fact. The press didn't just cover the killings, they shaped the legend. Here's what reporters wrote. He only killed on nights of full moons. He left tarot cards beside his victims. He was always seen wearing a top hat and cape. None of it was true, but no one questioned it, because fear was louder than fact. Some said the papers were doing their job. Others believed they were making it worse. Each article seemed to stoke panic. Merchants bought out axes not to use but to hide. Musicians were paid triple their normal fee. Some homeowners paid for armed guards to watch their front porches at night. Guns sold out. Locks were backordered. Phonographs were in high demand because people thought music would save them. The Axeman didn't need to kill every night. The papers did that for him. Then came another letter. Unlike the first, this one never made it to the newsroom. It was intercepted by a postman who found it odd. Addressed not to a paper, but to a jazz club. Inside, "Your music pleased me, but you played it for yourself. I do not forgive arrogance. Soon, I will return with a vengeance worthy of fire. Keep the beat, or die." Was it real? No one knows. Some say the postman made it up for fame. Others swear it was genuine. Either way, the legend grew. New Orleans was changing. People no longer walked alone. Jazz filled every alley, not for joy but for safety. Bars didn't just play music. They posted signs. "Safe from the Axeman. We swing loud." Even churches began holding jazz services. Sermons with saxophones. Psalms with piano solos. It was absurd and terrifying. Then came the money. Local writers turned the Axeman into poetry. Vaudeville troupes performed reenactments. A cigar brand released a limited Axeman blend. He had become a product, a marketable myth, and the press wasn't done. One paper suggested the Axeman targeted only Italian grocers. This wasn't random. It was racist. They painted a picture of New Orleans' Italian population as crime-ridden, mafia-laced, and prone to secrets. Soon, vigilantes took aim at Italian families. Windows were smashed. Businesses burned. Innocent people beaten in the street. All because of the ink in a paper and the silence of a killer. A quote from a journalist at the time: "If we can't catch him, we'll brand him. Make him a ghost so big, even he can't escape it." And they did. He became a shapeshifter. Some said he was a ghost. Others claimed he was a demon. Still others insisted he was no one at all. Just a story made real by fear. By late 1919, the press had made the Axeman so famous, people started confessing. Not one or two, hundreds. Some claimed they were under hypnosis. Others said the devil made them do it. A few simply wanted their name in the paper. The police had to sort through each claim, and every one was false. And then nothing. No new letters. No new murders. No jazz threats. No blood on bed sheets. The Axeman vanished. But the papers couldn't let go. So they pivoted. One newspaper accused another of fabricating the jazz letter. Another claimed the police chief had written it himself to scare citizens into obeying curfews. Suddenly, the Axeman wasn't the story. The cover-up was. Big city outlets picked up the tale. The New York Times, the Chicago Tribune, even the Washington Post. They called New Orleans a city under musical siege. The Axeman became a national mystery. He was America's boogeyman. Long after the blood dried, the legend sold tickets. Writers published novels claiming to reveal the truth. None of them agreed. None of them were true. The Axeman became a stop on haunted tours. "Stand here," they said, "where Catherine Maggio took her last breath. Look at this door. The chisel marks are still visible. Maybe, maybe not." Truth didn't matter anymore. Only fear. That's the question now. Did the Axeman kill on his own? Or did the press help him? They gave him a name, a voice, a mythos. Without the papers, would he have remained a local killer? A ghost in the margins? Instead, he became a symbol, an echo in the horn of a jazz trumpet. Some believe the Axeman died. Some think he moved away. Others say he still walks, that he watches from back alleys, that he hums to himself, that if you stop playing music, he'll come. Years passed, but the fear never really left. In New Orleans, stories outlive the storytellers. And the Axeman? He became legend. But what happens when a legend doesn't fade? When the echoes of an unsolved terror still shape the present? This chapter isn't just about the past. It's about what the Axeman left behind. Children who grew up during the Axeman's reign remembered the fear. They heard the jazz in nightmares. Some never played music again. Others played nothing but jazz as a kind of protection. One survivor, now elderly, recalled, "My father used to say, 'Keep the trumpet by the door. He listens.'" It became a family rule, passed down like recipes and warnings. The Axeman had left more than blood. He left scars. In the 1930s, a series of murders struck Baton Rouge. Same method, same jazz references, same door panel carved out. The press called it the return of the Axeman, but investigators disagreed. The blows were sloppier. The notes left behind seemed forced. Was it a copycat? Or had the Axeman truly come back? No arrest was made. The killings stopped again, and the questions remained. In 1949, a local jazz singer released a track titled, He Said Play or Die. It was haunting. Low sax, whispered lyrics. The final verse sent chills. He stands in shadow, coat of black, a blade in hand, no turning back. If music fades, then so shall you. The jazzman comes. The night is due. The record was pulled after several listeners complained of hallucinations. One woman claimed she saw a man with pale eyes in her mirror while the record played. Coincidence? Or was the Axeman now a ghost in the grooves? In the early 2000s, a YouTube video titled Jazz to Survive went viral. It recreated the infamous jazz night of March 1919 with eerie accuracy. Dark tones, clips of New Orleans streets, and a whispered voice reciting the Axeman's letter. Thousands of viewers reported sleepless nights after watching. Some claimed their speakers crackled with static jazz, even when turned off. Urban legend, sure, but New Orleans knows better than to ignore the supernatural. The Axeman was no longer a killer. He was a curse. In 2018, on the 100-year anniversary of the first murder, a local historian uncovered something chilling. A string of similar axe murders in Chicago from 1910 to 1912. Same MO, same entry style, same silence. Could the Axeman have started earlier? Could he have been practicing before New Orleans? FBI archives were pulled, old files scanned, and then the trail went cold. Again, New Orleans built a jazz empire, but beneath the music was a pulse of dread. Clubs honored the Axeman with themed nights. Play to live. Posters lined Bourbon Street. Some saw it as tradition, others a warning. To this day, every March 19th, musicians flood the city. They call it Jazz Survival Night. They don't talk about the Axeman. They just play, hard, loud, because silence still feels dangerous. In 2020, a sealed envelope arrived at a local newspaper, typed, postmarked from New Orleans. It read, "A century is not long enough to silence the sound. Play, dance, bleed. We are never gone." Was it real? A hoax? The letter was investigated. No fingerprints, no DNA, just a ghostly echo, a fear, of music, of murder. Some stories fade with time, but the Axeman's tale? It only gets louder. A century later, the city still listens, and some believe he's still out there. But before we close this case, we have one final task: to examine the lasting legacy, the modern theories, and the question that haunts every cold case. Can justice still be found? After the final letter in 2020, conspiracy theorists reignited their hunt. Podcasts exploded. Reddit threads spiraled into rabbit holes. One user claimed to have traced the Axeman's DNA to an unsolved homicide in Ohio in 1922. Another said the Axeman was never a man at all, but a secret society punishing anti-jazz sentiment. Wild? Absolutely. But each theory fed the obsession, and the legend only grew. In 2021, a retired FBI profiler named Henry Callan released a book, The Jazz Killer Files. He suggested the Axeman might have been a traveling carnival worker. Carnivals moved fast. No names, no records, lots of blades, Callan wrote. He linked murders in small towns between 1915 and 1921. Same MO, same entry, same eerie silence after. Callan also believed the 1919 letter wasn't written by the killer. It was a journalist, he argued. Someone who wanted to control the fear, maybe even redirect it. It was a chilling thought. If true, the killer wasn't just brutal. He was invisible. Musicians began seeing the Axeman as more than just a killer. He became a metaphor. Some said he symbolized the death of old traditions. Others, the rise of black cultural expression through jazz. One artist created a concept album called Murder in D Minor. Each track was a reimagined crime scene. It's not just history, the artist said. It's pain, expression, survival. The music kept the memory alive. And the fear. In 2022, the NOPD quietly reopened several cold cases linked to the Axeman. Why? Because of a newly uncovered crime scene photo from 1918. It showed a partial fingerprint. Technology couldn't analyze it back then. But now, they ran it through modern systems. No match. But they did find something else. The same partial print in a 1920 Chicago murder. Could this be the break? So far, no official update. But sources close to the department say, they're not giving up. In 2023, a true crime TikToker claimed to have found audio embedded in the original 1949 jazz record. He said play or die. Using sound separation tech, she isolated a faint whisper. Keep playing. I'm still listening. The video went viral. Millions watched. And suddenly, Gen Z was asking about a murderer from 1918. The Axeman had crossed into another century. Another audience. And still no name. This isn't just a murder story. It's about power, fear, control. The Axeman wasn't just a man with an axe. He controlled an entire city with a single letter. He proved silence could kill, and that music could protect. In a time of war, disease, and inequality, the Axeman showed how fragile safety really was. That's why his story still matters. That's why we're still listening. So who was he? A butcher? A madman? A myth? The truth may never be known. But his impact is carved into the soul of New Orleans. And every March, the city remembers. Not with silence, but with sound. Because if the Axeman ever returns, they'll be ready. For more chilling true crime stories, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.